Kia ora koutou. So first of all, I just want to say thank you, Minister, for your opening, and also Nancy, thank you for your time. And everybody here, I saw a lot of friends. Today is almost like a high school reunion that I never had. Just a bit about myself. I started as a peer support worker when Auckland PhD funded the pilot programs. So that was 2 decades ago, and I still this good of joking. I also like to share with you. I was working for Like Minds Like Minds at the Mental Health Foundation at the time. One of the things that I was truly passionate and wanted is to have a group of young people who can talk about mental health and well-being from their voices. So without further delay, even these old guys telling you all the past history, I'm going to ask the very first questions to our lovely panel. Just by the way, I was diagnosed with ADHD last year. That's why I learned sometimes my brain goes faster than my mouth. So if I say anything offensive, I'm so sorry. Thank you. So we're going to start with the why. I mean, as a matter of fact, you know, like you guys can choose any career that you want, fashion designer, IT, but yet you chosen working in the space of mental health and addictions. Can I ask, amongst all of you, what was the reason and why? So no order, I'm just going to let you guys start.
Thank you, Ivan. The mic's in front of me, so. Kia ora everyone, my name's Nicole. I'm a youth consumer advisor at Whāraurau. What inspired me to get into the mental health and addiction workforce? I've had lived experience within the mental health sector, but also within the general health sector, having experiences of mental distress, but also like chronic conditions. And my experience in the mental health and addiction system was heavy in challenges, but I also know that its necessity has a lot of weight as well. And being in that space, I kind of had concern for people like me, for people in my community around system navigation. So I wanted to advocate for the well-being of migrant and refugee youth and other marginalized sectors of society.
Thanks, Nicole. E mihi ana ki a koutou katoa ko Romy tōkuingoa. Oh, you want us to stand up? Yep, okay, fantastic. We can do that, absolutely, no stress. Kia ora koutou ko kai tōhu tohu tamariki rangatahi oranga hinengaro ki Asian Family Services Aho. A really good question, and to my parents' great disappointment when I left school, I did not choose to become a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer, and in fact decided to do lots of many different things. And I guess many of you know me as my role in lived experience work in the sector, and recently I've joined the team at Asian Family Services here doing child and youth mental health. But my personal lived experiences of being a young Asian queer second generation Korean New Zealander, navigating the education system in New Zealand, navigating the mental health system in New Zealand as a young person and as an adult, and among those experiences, realizing that what I needed for the different intersectional identities that I had, for the different cultural experiences that I brought to the table, for the different whakapapa I had and how that affected my journey and my recovery, and the stark realization that was not available for me in our sector here. I think that was one of those things that really I guess gave me a little bit of a fire for me to create what I didn't see, basically. And it's really great to have, we are just 4 of many young Asian people, young 1.5 second generation Asian people who have that same fire and that same motivation as well. So it's fantastic to be speaking to you all today.
Morena koutou, I'm Angela Hann. Like these guys, I come from a lived experience background as well. What inspired me to come into this space was my own experiences as well, accessing services as a young person. I guess I didn't really know it at the time, but after leaving some appointments, I didn't feel quite right, and I didn't feel like the problems I had gone in with were kind of solved. And I guess going into my first role as a youth consumer advisor as well, I had 2 young nephews, and I guess I really was hopeful that the next generation wouldn't have to go through a similar struggle like I did. Yeah, that's me. I'll pass it on to Mike.
Yeah, I'm not really good at public speaking. So, my name's Mike. So, like the rest of us, I come from lived experience, but only differences on my time here. So, like for me, I was adopted, so I interracially adopted. So we through that struggle of identity and sense of belonging and stuff. I went down the wrong path. I ended up being with the triads, and so I come from the gang lived experience. So you talk to a lot, kōrero with a lot of our whānau rangatahi, and they can connect with our systems, because it's westernised, and a lot of them don't have that lived experience where they can be realistic with them and say, hey, it's okay to come from that lived experience, but there are other options, So that's why I got into my role as a rangatahi transitions kamahi with Ngāti Whātua. So I work for the iwi, and then we can work in the grey area. Sure, we do the tick boxes, but then we get to that through our lived experience and our whanangatanga, how we can connect with our whānau, our rangatahi, and make a difference. So that's quick overview, I guess.
What I also like to acknowledge is this four amazing individual also belongs to our ethnic advisory groups, and there are some of them also here as well. Can I get you stand up for the ethnic advisory groups? So these are individual, so sorry to put you on the spot, who are actually part of our integrated services and have been working hard to give a high level of strategy and also making system change. So thank you so much. I also want to share the next questions with all of you, which is, besides talking about why you want to work with in the mental health addiction sector, the next question is, given the experience you guys have, what are the changes you would like to share, especially as a 1.5 second generations? And today we have many leaders and also people who have experience working in the sector. What would you like them to know, and what would you like them to take away and make the services better for the next generation, like yourself, 1.5 second generation? There's a lot of questions.
So obviously, I work in that sector and mental health, and with my lived experience, like we need to change the script. So, like obviously, we all individuals, we all have our individual life experience, and we can connect to different sectors of our rangatahi and whānau. And like for the script, there always seems to be one size fits all. We can't deviate to adapt and adjust to our rangatahi and our Asian whānau and youth, So like, we've got the cultural differences, language differences, trying to fit into different molds of society where we've got sports now as well, There's a lot more Asians. I play rugby league, I play rugby, I play touch, I tag, I've represented New Zealand, Niue, Tokelau, all these different cultures, and just being fluid. So that's what we need to do as mental health professionals, I guess. Yeah, professionals, And so for me to bond with my rangatahi, we do our kickboxing sessions and stuff like that. Then we do counselling, just on the right back to their place, or with their whānau and stuff, So we're not in the office anymore, We can adjust to the times, I guess, in a way.
Our Asian whānau are a very great example of a community who suffer from the model minority stereotype. And if you haven't heard that term before, basically what it refers to is a minority group of people who are sort of seen as presenting particular qualities. So for example, and just generally speaking, when we think of Asian people, we might lean towards thinking about them being as more law-abiding citizens, more less aggressive, and more people who say yes and are respectful and things like that. And I think that's caused a lot of harm for our communities, because although that is a stereotype, that is all that it is. It's a stereotype. And for those of you who are service providers, I'm sure if you look at your intake data, you can see that the percentage of Asian whānau presenting is going to be much, much, much less than what the population is in your area. So I think that's a really a good point to us. We can't sit there and expect people to come if we're not able to meet them halfway. And I think that's that point, is around meeting halfway. When I think back to my time accessing services, I having grown up in New Zealand, having been born in New Zealand and lived all of my life in New Zealand, when I accessed services, I didn't think that I would need any different, I didn't feel like I would need any different support with my health. It had never crossed my mind that because of my whakapapa that my needs would be different. But it's only when I started on that journey of recovery and started to seek support that I realized that I wasn't getting exactly what I was needing. And I guess, that comes down to, it's fantastic. We all have Asian clinicians in our services who do a wonderful job, who support the team, and who take on a lot of responsibility. But actually, it's all about responsibility to be there for our community, whether that's ethnicity, whether that's other characteristics or that folks bring. It's all of our responsibility to be there for our Asian whānau. So, my encouragement is that, I'm not going to stand here and be like, no, we're not doing good enough and blah, 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 because we all know that, but actually that we need to learn from each other more. And now is a more vital time than ever. Roshni and Fred talked about some of our population stats and what that's looking like in the next few years. Now is our opportunity to do this right and to build. Let's do it now rather than getting to the bottom of the cliff.
Thanks, Romy. I relate to a lot of things Romy said. Being New Zealand born as well, I didn't really identify that I needed any tailored support when accessing services. However, when I did reach out to get some support for my mental health, I did notice that there were some gaps in knowledge around, Asian cultural norms. Some of the advice or, strategies that I was taught in counselling didn't really apply to my situation because of the dynamics of my family and culture. So I guess what I'm thinking is, we've spent so much time saying, it's okay to not be okay and reach out to services, but are services ready for people? Another point I had to make was that as a young person, it's really difficult to get yourself to a GP to access services in the first place, because not a lot of people actually have that relationship with GPs. They've grown up going with their parents, and it's really challenging to feel confident and go into a GP to explain what you're going through, especially if you don't know what you're going through yourself. Those are the points I had. I'll pass it on to Nicole.
Thank you, Angela. I really resonated with a part of your presentation, Professor Roshni. There was something that said that the most marginalized people have the least access to healthcare. And I really do see that in my work with the community, especially within my NGO job. For 1.5 to second generation Asian young people, there are a lot of barriers and challenges within the health system, which my colleagues talked about, like culture. We all already know about the cost and wait times, but also work and the cost of living crisis. It's very hard to show up to your appointment if you're working really long hours. So hard to get to the service, So that is a challenge for a lot of young people, and also accessing social support, financial support, like WINS can be very hard if you are going through mental distress and or addictions. I think the question was around 1.5 to second generation Asian young people, but I also want to include our wider community, because there are whānau, we interact with them, on a daily basis and stuff. And I just want to reiterate that there are further challenges for those who are in temporary or work visas, or like exploited migrant workers. Acknowledging also that most migrant and refugee families come from working class backgrounds and don't have the means to skip work or spend $150 an hour to take care of their well-being. So those were some of the challenges that for me is really important to address. I think we should look at, I like what you're doing, Professor, because you look at our community's actual material conditions and kind of making recommendations based off of that. So thank you.
Okay, so what you guys have highlighted is beside the culture complications, and also like when you're assessing the service, you realize that it's not there to cater for the collective culture, and also the recovery model is based on the individualistic model instead of the collective value approach. And the second thing that Nicole you highlight is the fact that like material things can also become challenging when assessing services. So that is the second barrier, especially for marginalized communities, and that is something that we also need to consider. What I'm going to ask the third question, which is, I know many of you work in the youth space and also providing a platform for young people to talk about mental health and well-being. So would you like to share a little bit about what you have heard for the work that you have done through Whāraurau and also through Counties Manukau about the voices of those young people, and also you as well, Mike. You highlight something that is very important. Sometimes we're also thinking about therapeutic relationship. It's not just in the setting of the room, but in the natural environment that's a lot more powerful. So we also need to think about the setting where we provide a therapeutic relationship with the Rangatahi. So the questions I will go back again, which is, so what have you heard from the young people about the challenges and the aspirations, and what would they like to see, and how can we create that space?
Thank you, Ivan. So with my work at Whāraurau, we do DMC reports, Deep Meaningful Conversations, which is an annual report that comes out, and it is a compilation pretty much, or a summary on young people's experiences and views of well-being, mental health and addiction sector services, clinicians, stuff like that. And I think the most important thing to take away is to remember that young people are very diverse, especially here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and it's hard to speak for everybody else. But I think it's also really important to recognize and celebrate those differences and kind of meet them as they are when they are at your service. We have had DMCs with Asian young people, including rainbow and trans Asian young people as well. And our experiences are all very different, but all also very valuable. So within engagement and what we've heard from young people in terms of this is that I think the key is to build strong relationships with the young person that you're seeing. So you get to know them more. It would be kind of like a genuine connection when they're actually like open and disclose what they're going through and seek for help. We had a DMC as well with Asian Family Services with our Asian rangatahi, and it kind of opened my eyes to the necessity of whānau approach within our Asian community. Of course, we do have that area within the mental health system already, but also I think we need to look at how whānau approach looks like for the Asian communities. So yeah, I think that's something that we could work on and think about. I'll pass it back to you.
Great. I guess one thing that I would like leaders and decision makers to know is that our people, our communities, they want support. They want support. They want to be able to find support that works for them. They're just not able to do that at the moment because of a lack of what's available. I'm thinking back to my time when I was at uni doing my clinical qualification and all of the different counselling models that I learned and how not a single one of them was based on working with whānau and community. And I think about that now and I translate into how I, in my clinical work, I practice with young Asian people. And that, we have been having this conversation around holistic wellbeing for a long time, but for Asian young people, how that holistic wellbeing looks is that their whānau, their culture, school, academics, all of this stuff is inherently intertwined into our wellbeing and into our mental health. And I think often we get, when we look at young Asian people, we think about sort of academic pressure. That's one of the labels that I hear a lot. Stress, stress from the parents, I hear that a lot, but actually that is a very important part of our identity and of our well-being as well. Which means that, for those of us who have been practicing in a particular way for many, many years, that challenges all of the things that we have learned about how to work with individuals, because it flips on its head the way that we think about well-being and positive versus negative inputs, for example. So one thing that I would like to say is particularly I look at our younger generation Asian people coming through and just the incredible wisdom and insight they have into their own journeys and what they need for their own well-being. So let's listen to them. Let's ask them what it is that's important to them. Let's listen to them and let's take some suggestions from them.
During my time as a youth council advisor, I saw many young Asian rangatahi come through, and a very consistent theme was, I guess a way to describe it, the discomfort or the strained relationship they had with their parents when accessing services. A lot of parents, really want what's best for their child, so they would support them in taking them and getting the support the child needs. But at home, they're not receiving the support they need from their parents on an emotional or emotional level, I guess. And a lot of the time when I met these young people, they felt safe speaking to me as a slightly older person, I guess, with a similar understanding of this. And I guess what my point is that services need to know about this disconnect between young Asian people and their parents. A lot of them come from cultures that don't have a lot of understanding about mental health and well-being, lacking vocabulary even to explain what's going on. So when a young person in New Zealand experiences mental distress, it's so hard to seek support from their parents, and as we know, it's very essential to have that whānau support. And on top of that, the stigma associated with mental well-being means a lot of young people access support without their whānau. Personally, when I access services, I didn't tell any of my family, and especially not my parents, because one, I didn't think they'd understand, but secondly, I didn't want to worry them. And I think that's very consistent across a lot of Asian communities, is that Asian young people don't want to worry their parents.
What you said. I guess for me, coming from my life experience and working with a wide range of cultures, and for a lot of the Asian rangatahi that grew up in my generation, international students and stuff, they come over, they're left alone, they got all this money, but then there's no support services for them at Auckland Uni or universities. They just took all their money and they're all sit, so they find their safe space, their security in Asian gangs, gambling, alcohol, karaoke, street fights, whatever, So, and if they do try to reach out, there's nobody that understands them, They go to their student counsellor office, whatever, sit down and say, I've got these issues, but they don't think it's an issue themselves because, it's what they do to survive. You know, we always look, as humans, we always look for connections, right? So the best connection will be others that are in the same hole as them. But then, you know, that creates this cycle, you know? Like the blind leading the blind, you know? Then you got your dark doors, you know, your big brothers, your big bosses, you know, who take advantage of these younger generations saying, yeah, hey, you know, it's okay to feel that way. I can extort you, I can take money off you, you know, and I'll make things better. You know, I can provide girls, whatever, drugs, whatever, you know. So I guess for me, I'm more community-based. I think we need to get outside of the thinking where we work with them one-on-one. We build a community, a community around them where they can be open to one another, create a whānau for them. Say, hey, it's okay, you know, there are other ways outside of your thinking, you know, it's okay to be weak, it's okay to have these issues. Let's look at this from a strength-based approach, you know. So, yeah.
I'll just add something as well before Ivan gets to the next question. And I want to acknowledge what Romy said and reiterate that holistic approach when it comes to caring for Asian rangatahi is really important. If our priority is the lives and well-being of our rangatahi, then we must also remember that affordable kai and housing is suicide prevention, free school lunches, suicide prevention, a living wage and a safe workplace is suicide prevention. So we do need that multi-sectoral approach because all people from different backgrounds, from all backgrounds, whether it's economic or cultural, we experience mental distress. But those who are most marginalized and are systemically oppressed are least likely to seek and receive care for their well-being and health. So I think for me, addressing inequities needs a team effort from all of us, I guess. And you know, not to be kind of like focusing on challenges and stuff like that, but I really think that if we do work towards addressing these inequities, then that would be a huge step forward when it comes to taking care of our rangatahi and makupuna.
Thank you so much, and I think that's why we really want you guys to be here to share your voice. Asian Family Services 2 years ago created a documentary called In-Betweenness, which was born out of the conversation with all of you. One of the things that I still remember when one of the participants mentioned is every time when she walked into a space, she needs to ask herself, should I be more Pakeha today or Asian? And that is the mind shift they have to do day in, day out. Without the language and understanding and support and validations, that can become very challenging. So this will be my final questions to all of you. As you all also be working in this space, what have you seen things that have been working well and we can learn from other marginalized communities as such?
Oh, that's a really good question. I work with a lot of migrant and refugee communities with Migrante, but also Migrant Action Trust. So I just want to say before I answer the last question that it's a privilege to be here and to be speaking to all of you. There's a lot of work being done at a grassroots level by ethnic communities. And we can learn from that grassroots approach and kind of like building solidarity amongst different ethnic communities and kind of building towards a better future for all of our children and kind of finding common ground between our cultures. Because people of migrant, refugee, and indigenous communities have shared histories of, unfortunately, oppression, colonization, forced migration. That's why we're here. But in saying that, we also have a long history of resistance, and that resistance is driven by love and passion for the rights and welfare of our people. So, and to answer the question, what can we learn from these communities? I think we should continue to engage with our wider community, spend more time with them, kind of volunteering for the efforts that they're doing and getting to know the communities that they serve as well. It sounds pretty easy, but once you stand in that space and build those connections and get to know the people that you're serving, then that would make a really huge difference for yourself as an advocate, but also for the people that you serve. Thank you.
The word that's sticking out for me at the moment is around visibility and how important visibility is. Just things like walking into a service and seeing someone who looks similar to you and the impact that has is incredible. As I mentioned, I was born and raised in Auckland. Aotearoa is the only home that I've ever had. That being said, I still feel like an outsider all the time. It's totally right, as I would say, when I walk into a room of people, I look around instantly without even thinking, I'm thinking, am I the only Asian person here? And that is, that's why I come back to visibility and how important that is. As we, as the years roll on and we have more, Asian young people in New Zealand, and we have more leaders, I'm looking at Carlos and the Nancys in the room, and that we see these people on our screens standing up in front. We see more Asian created media on our screens. All of these things add to the layers that build upon us feeling a little bit more of a sense of belonging in this place that we do call home. And as we all know, unless you feel safe, you can't get support. Unless you feel safe in your community, in your service, in your whānau, whatever that is, you can't do what you need to do. So visibility is the one for me.
For me, partnership comes into mind. I think we've made a good start with that, especially with the ethnic advisory board that Ivan has started. Partnership with Asian communities who can help social and wellbeing services to have context, and partnership with lived experience people as well. I think that they really have valuable insight into the issues that the current services have, and I think they should always be involved in creating new services and improving the current ones.
And for me, I guess it's more about creating role models, for our rangatira in the community. I mean, we've got so many different cultural groups, but then a lot of us don't even know who they are. We got all these community leaders, but a lot of us don't know who they are and what they do for us. So kids bring it back down to the street level, where you can connect with us. Also, so I'm a street-based side into my sports and stuff. So also, you got a lot of Asians playing sports now. Rugby league. So we just started our all Asian ethnic team this year in the ARL comp. We got smashed, but it's all because it's just having that Asian representation and breaking the stereotypes, showing the next generation, you don't have to fit that mold of being a doctor, taxi driver, Uber driver, whatever, you can follow your dreams, and it's okay to fail. And there are people out there who can talk life into you and be that person who inspires you.
Do we still have time for? No, okay. I just want to say thank you, and it's truly my honor to meet all of our ethnic advisory group and like yourself, and also it's humbling to have you guys sharing with us the last 4 things that I want people to remember, which is partnering with grassroots communities, and also being visible and representations, and the last one, which is meet where they at. But more than that is what most important, creating a platform for them to have a voice so that they can be part of the solutions. Thank you so much.